All right, thank you for joining us today for another episode of Harnessing Contrast, this simple podcast where we discuss the small details that make high performers and powerful companies stick out from the pack. Today, we have the opportunity of having Allyssa-Rae Davis on the podcast. Allyssa-Rae has a powerful background in sales, client care, and a variety of other industries. Allyssa-Rae is currently in the process of building and running her own business from scratch. In fact, this business was recently a heavy contender in Idaho's Best Business Award, winning regional and nearly winning state. Ray, we appreciate you being on the show with us today.
Yeah, of course. I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. Ray, just for our listeners out there, could you tell us a little bit about your personal business and where you're coming from?
Yeah, absolutely. So my business is Pack Leader Nation. We are a dog training business that focuses in behavioral modification in dogs. So you have a bunch of different categories in the dog training world. I focus on those dogs that need major help. So this isn't just the simple, I'm going to teach your dog how to sit. It's your dog's bitten or has destroyed something or has really neurotic type tendencies or behaviors is really what I specialize in.
So what you're saying is you're a little bit more than the average neighborhood dog whisperer.
Yeah, I'm not going to be what you find at PetSmart by any means.
Gotcha. Now, I've talked to you about this previously, but you used to do like police dog work and a lot of behavior modification, even to the extent of like service dogs. Can you tell us a little bit about that too?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started out in the industry of working with police dogs. I was homeschooled growing up and had an absolute love of dogs, but I wasn't allowed to be around them or have them in my home because my mom was deathly allergic, and my dad saw that love for animals and found a lady in town that had a training academy for working dogs or police dogs. And he looked her up and gave her a call and said, "Hey, my daughter really loves animals. Can she come after she's done with school and pick up some dog poop and walk some dogs?" And she said, "Sure." And basically, from that time forward, the rest is history. I was able to learn from her and work my way into the pet field. I started with just like the basic stuff of what you would find at PetSmart. And then slowly found a passion for kind of giving people hope. I worked with the very first lady I worked with. She just had this little lap dog that she was in an assisted living home that just kept biting everyone that would ever try to come and see her. And she was just completely, utterly distraught that she was going to have to get rid of this dog. And we were able to train him to where he loved being around people and stopped biting them. And that like joy and peace and like realization that she could keep her animal kind of lit a fire in me of taking someone from complete and utter despair to having this magical relationship with their dog is really what lit the fire under me to continue to go down that route of working with extreme cases. Because so many studies have shown that dogs really can actually change people's lives, whether it be service dog work or an emotional support animal or that companion that's just happy to see you when you get home. They can really change people's lives, and they shouldn't be menaces. They shouldn't be something that causes you stress. They could be amazing companions. And if I can help people get to that, that's really what I want to do.
That's awesome. And it sounds like this started out as purely a hobby and a love. And I don't know about you, but sometimes for me personally, when I've got a hobby and I decide to monetize it, I can kind of take the fun out of it. At what
Yeah.
point did you make that decision to monetize it and make it a business?
So at first, I was charging $10 a lesson. So it was basically enough to get me to and from the lesson and buy me some lunch. It wasn't supposed to be a business. What kind of lit the fire under me is I was sitting in a client's home, and they were talking about this trainer who had supposedly been working with dogs for like 25 years and just had this huge long pedigree and was charging them like $150 an hour. And their dog was a mess, an absolute mess. And it kind of just made me be like, there are so many different trainers out there that aren't working in their niche. Like, you don't have to be good at everything. You need to find your little pocket in your corner and be okay with it and like stick with it. And that kind of made me be like, I kind of want to do this full time. And I'm not doing it full time yet. Pretty dang close, but it kind of just changed the thought process of I need to take this from a hobby and put more effort into it so that I can help more people. And I can only do that if I'm not taking money out of my pocket.
That makes a lot of sense. Do you have days though where you're just feeling burned out? How do you stay motivated?
Um, I haven't reached that day yet, thankfully. I think a huge portion of that is just the balance between I'm not doing it full time. The motivation really is that it is still kind of in that sweet spot of it's a hobby that I love. I can change people's lives, but it's changing my life at the same time. I'm able to provide for my family in a whole different way with the extra income. But I think because it is something that I truly love, I will be surprised on the day that it actually feels like a job instead of a hobby, because it's just kind of always been a part of me. It is me. So I think it would be hard for it not to feel like a job. Sorry, it would be hard for me to feel like it was a normal job and not just something I love doing.
Well, I mean, for all the entrepreneurs out there listening to this, I think Ray is a pretty rare case here that I personally do photography on the side, and
Yeah.
I love a good picture, but my goodness, when I do a wedding and I've got thousands of photos to edit, work is work. And
Yeah.
that's pretty cool that you're able to keep your passions pure and genuine despite it being for you, it sounds like more than a part-time job in addition to a full-time job. So that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think a huge portion of it though is that because the job portion that I love doing is working with people, and that's literally what you do when I'm running my business. So I get to talk to people about what their needs are from day one. When a customer or client is contacting me inquiring about their dog, I'm immediately helping them. Yes, I'm technically selling myself and my brand, but I'm immediately helping them, and I'm immediately doing why I do what I love, which is to help people. And so I think because of that aspect of it, it doesn't feel as job oriented. And I really haven't had to get into the crazy amount of like advertising or anything like that. I don't really spend a ton of time on that. And so I think that's why I'm in that sweet spot. If I was spending more time on the like administrative part, then I could totally see it being like a burden. But I don't feel that right now because I'm just getting to help people from the first contact.
Well, we all envy you. That's pretty cool. So this podcast about contrast, setting yourself apart. There's a
Yeah.
lot of dog trainers out there. Uh, there's a lot of people out there who are not officially dog trainers per se. They don't call themselves that, but they think they know a lot about dogs, and
Yeah.
they'll tell you a thing or two about how to treat your dog and teach them how to do things. But where do you, Ray, even begin when you move to stand out from the crowd?
Yeah. So my entire philosophy and actually my kind of my slogan is training people and then dogs. A lot of trainers will be like, hey, you need help getting your dog to stop jumping on you. Okay, I'll teach you how to teach your dog to stop jumping on you. They just fix the problem and then they move on. I have a whole kind of a holistic approach where I want to tell you the reason your dog's jumping on you, teach you why he's jumping on you and what you need to do to fix it and the theories behind it. So when something else comes up, you know how to fix it. So it ends up being more cost effective for the human because you actually understand what's going on. So when other things come up, you can just fix it rather than having to call me back. Um, Dog owners walk away from an experience with me feeling competent and like they know what's going on. And my goal is for them never to feel like, oh, well, my dog only listens with the trainer or my dog only listens if. I want them to be able to take care of it and be an educated owner. And I actually won't take clients that only want me to do the Band-Aid fix because they'll end up having bigger issues down the road that they can't fix, which is just going to cost them more time, more frustration, which is the opposite of why I'm doing what I'm doing. I don't want you to be frustrated. I want you to know what you're doing and be able to have a very long, healthy life with your dog without having to be frustrated.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, just to boil it all down, you identified a gap in the industry and you're running with it.
Yeah, basically. Yep.
I mean, was that pretty blaringly obvious, or are there, like, help me out here? How many other trainers are approaching this the same way you are?
Um, it's becoming more popular now. In the training community, education is in a shift right now. Trainers used to view each other as competition of like, oh, I have to be better than that one, and I need to berate them and I need to talk down to them. And right now it's changing to where they want to learn from each other and they're seeing what things do and do work, don't work. And if they're not comfortable and confident, they're okay building a network around each other. And so a lot of the what's called balanced trainers is what I am, are starting to communicate with each other more and learn more. And so this concept of teaching the human and not just focusing on the dog is becoming more and more popular. But in my region here in Idaho, I'm the only trainer in my region in I can safely say the state that has that philosophy of training people and then dogs. I actually see a lot of my competitors starting to pick up on what I'm trying to teach. In our local area, because it's not super popular, but the tide is starting to go that way.
So let's say like 2, 3 years down the road, things get saturated with this philosophy. Do you have in your mind like that next thing that's going to set you apart from everybody else?
Yeah, so that was actually one of the first things that I did when I decided that I needed to make this a revenue stream. I knew that the pet industry is incredibly lucrative, but you need to be able to have your customer acquisition costs be low and be able to get multiple streams of income out of them. So I have actually built a network or a nation, hence the name Pack Leader Nation, of basically a one-stop shop that someone can come to me and I can help them with all aspects of their dogs. So from one client, I can essentially get almost 5 different streams of revenue from them. So I've built a network with local vets that I trust, that I love. I built relationships with that are specialized in different areas of veterinary medicine. I've partnered with groomers and collar companies and food companies and dog bowl companies and basically anything that a human would need. I've partnered myself with these companies that I love and trust and know. So I can refer my clients to them. And then as a result, I get a kickback. And then they can refer clients to me. And I also get a kickback. In addition, I've expanded my business to where I do dog sitting or pet sitting when people are on vacation or need somewhere to leave their pet when they're going to be at work for the day. And so they might come to me for just dog sitting, but I can throw in, hey, I can do an evaluation for your dog and see what they need behaviorally wise, and I can help you out. And then if I train them, you're going to have a little bit of a cheaper stay the next time you come. And oh, while your dog was here, I noticed like they had a limp. You can go to this vet and get a free evaluation and discounted care if you train with me. And oh, you also need a groomer. Great. And then it just turns into one revenue source suddenly comes in 5 different ways because I'm getting referrals from the vets or the groomers or the dog food companies, and it just creates this circle. So even if the market crashes in one area, you're always going to have to feed your dog, you're always going to have to groom them, and it makes it really sustainable. So if one leg falls off, the stool's not just on the ground.
I think every entrepreneur out there should have heard those last couple of minutes there. I mean, I can't tell you how many companies I see get started, get rolling, great things are happening, but because they haven't diversified their income, when things go bad, they go really bad.
Yeah. I think COVID was a perfect example of that. I saw so many of my friends and colleagues go under because they knew how to train in person and that was it. They had nothing else. And you had to be able to turn on a dime. You had to learn how to go virtual. You had to learn how to continue to keep your following engaged. You had to learn new skills. And if I hadn't done that, I think I would have been one of them that would have gone under had I not had those different types of income still coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you could put a number on it, but if someone's starting a business, they need to have at least like 3 or 4 streams of different ways of getting money.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's crucial for entrepreneurs to understand. I mean, even companies that are successful enough that they, hire on a couple hundred employees, if they haven't diversified their income yet, they could lose all those employees just as quickly as they gain them.
Yeah. And I think what a lot of entrepreneurs where they make the mistake is they try to diversify too quickly, or they try to diversify too far outside of their brand identity. They try to throw in merch too fast or whatever it may be. They need to make sure they have one leg stable and then start adding in those other spools. But the way I've kind of envisioned it is that you're kind of building this house, but your foundation starts out as sticks and you slowly make the sticks a little bit bigger into a branch and then a trunk and then a tree. And then it just slowly gets bigger. You don't have to start with everything being these massive pillars of extreme success. You start with something and then you slowly grow out your system as you get more comfortable in your niche.
I mean, that brings up a pretty interesting topic. Let's talk risk for a second. When you've
Yeah.
been building Pack Leader Nation, what's a risk that you took? Was it calculated? I mean, is it okay to not take risks? I know people in the business world are always saying, "Oh, you got to take all the risks you can." Blah, blah, blah. What's your philosophy on risk?
You have to evaluate what's the benefit. And I kind of agree that if you don't take the risk, why are you doing it? But I don't think you can talk to any entrepreneur that's not willing to take a risk. There's a reason they're doing it on their own. For me, my biggest risk was I was at this point where I couldn't take any more clients. I was completely booked out. I was working like 12-hour days. And there was not enough me to go around. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm losing clients because of this. And I was talking to actually one of the vets I was partnered with, and he's like, you need to raise your prices. I was like, I can't do that. I'm in Rexburg, Idaho. I'm working with students. They don't have a budget. And he's like, you need to raise your prices. And I was terrified that I would lose clients. I wouldn't be able to be booked anymore. And I took the risk and I raised it and no one batted an eye. And I was like, wait, I've been stressing out about this for months and no one cared. I literally raised my prices by $10. No one cared. And then I did it again a year later. No one cared. So I think if you're not willing to do it, you're never gonna know what happened, and you're always going to wonder what if. But you can take calculated risks and not just do something stupid that's going to lose all of your progress. But if it sets you back a little bit, that's okay. It's a learning opportunity.
So obviously, you've become quite successful. Could you just kind of explain for me, like, where did you begin looking for business when you were out to generate your own leads? Were you just working with friends? And what does that look like compared to today? Like, where is most of your business coming from?
Yeah, so I started on Facebook. I joined every dog related or pet related group I could find and set notifications up on my phone to where if anyone posted in these groups, I'd get a notification. So I'd get home at night and I'd scroll through those notifications looking for people talking about dog behavior or looking for a trainer or whatever. And I would just post and say, hey, I can help you out. This is how much I charge. That like I said before, when I first started, it was like $10 an hour in the very, very beginning. And I was like, okay. No, I think it was 20, but it was pretty cheap. And I would just scroll through Facebook. And then from there, kind of word of mouth spread to where now I don't spend money on advertising. I think I've run one video campaign, but I don't advertise. Everything is word of mouth. Good service spreads. I created a page on Google and really optimized the SEO. So I show up earlier I did that by generating good reviews. But now I really don't spend time on Facebook. They come to me, they're calling me. And if I need to fill a class really fast, I'll post on my Facebook page really fast, and that's about it.
Yeah, I think that your product is good enough that it speaks for itself. And I love this topic of products selling themselves. I love to
Yeah.
bring up Apple. I love to bring up Tesla. I love to bring up Starbucks. Products that, I mean, Apple's got commercials, but Tesla and Starbucks don't do tons of advertising. It's mostly word of mouth. And also, when you just see a Tesla on the road, you stop and kind of have a moment of silence for yourself. Hey, that's a Tesla. Whoa.
Yeah.
Because the product is nice enough and great enough that people can't shut up about it. And they love Teslas. And they're like, oh, I want a Tesla. And they say that to a friend, and the friend's like, oh, you could never have a Tesla. And they have this conversation about Tesla. And I think you've had that yourself. I've seen you work. You are great enough that people tell their friends. And they
Hmm.
usually probably start the sentence with something like, she's a little pricey, but oh my gosh, she's worth
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
And that's the whole essence of this podcast is it sounds like you've created enough contrast in your industry and in your market that now you get to reap the benefits.
Yeah, it's I have little walking advertisements because how many times have you been walking in the park and you see a dog pulling an owner down the down the road, or you have a dog off leash running amok, or you live next to a dog that's barking constantly. Um, and then you have the contrast of a beautifully behaved dog. That's a conversation starter as much as that Tesla is of, oh, whoa, that's cool, of, oh, whoa, your dog isn't a menace to society. What did you do? And it speaks for itself. And everyone with the dog is in their own little communities of, I'm dealing with this thing. How did you fix it? Oh, I talked to this person and they were able to help me out. I'm a very firm believer in creating brand ambassadors within your own clientele list, because your clients will advertise for you better than you could pay a marketer for, because it's personal
Yep,
experience. They've been through it.
absolutely.
So if you can get brand ambassadors and incentivize them to advertise for you, you don't need to spend money on marketing, and it's going to be more successful than paying for marketing.
And that's just the biggest axiom ever. If your product sucks, friends are going to be honest with other friends and they're going to say, don't buy that if that product
Exactly.
sucks.
Yep.
But on the flip side, there is no better advertising, like you said, than your best bud who
Mhm.
is thrilled about a product.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when you're looking for additional trainers to be on the team, what kind of traits are you looking for? Are you more so looking for soft skills or are you looking for the hard skills? As in, are you looking for people who already know how to dog train or are you looking for people that know how to work with people?
I'm looking for people who want to know how to work with people. Because again, training dogs is easy. It's incredibly easy. It's the people that are really hard. You have people who grew up with dogs and, well, my dad did it this way, and this is how I've always done it, or they think it's stupid, or it just doesn't make sense to them. You have to build a relationship with the person so that they're open enough to listen to you, so that they can trust you, so you can actually show them that this way does work. And you have to create that buy-in, because if you don't create that buy-in, what's going to happen is you're going to show them how to fix their dog. You're going to fix their dog, and then they're not going to continue to do it. And you're going to get an angry customer 3 months down the line of extreme frustration. I still deal with that today of people who aren't bought into the concept. Only one family member is, and they end up getting frustrated because their dog regresses because no one's being consistent with them. So I actually prefer people without experience. History has taught me those with experience are kind of set in their ways and aren't really willing to learn something different. So absolutely look for people who are just good with people and fit my brand of helping people more than they are focused on necessarily the dogs.
That's an interesting trait. My dad's a dentist and he is way more focused on finding people who can get along with his team and then we'll teach him up. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he's thrilled when he finds somebody who's experienced and is also teachable. Like that's the whole package. But man, it seems like the more I don't know, people fight me on this, but I'll say like the more complicated an industry gets almost, the more managers are thrilled and focused on finding people who are just nice and willing
Yeah.
to shut up and to listen and to learn, ask good questions and apply what they're told.
Yeah, I think the whole job market is changing like that. We're seeing that in colleges and we're seeing it in employers where they're not necessarily looking for the piece of paper that tells you that you should be able to do the job. They want to know that you're coachable enough to be a part of a team, because companies are starting to realize culture is the driving force in the team. If the people are bought into the vision of the company and they're bought into the purpose and why they exist, they feel a part of something. So they're going to work harder and they're going to try more because they want to be a part of that. And traditionally speaking, if you know how to do the job already, you're not going to be willing to be taught or listen or want to be a part of something because you're too busy being important to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Culture is huge. And, this may be a complicated question because you're not at that point yet, but let's say you were to franchise, start branching out all across the country. Um, how do you see yourself approaching maintaining culture so that you
Yeah.
can keep on these employees?
So my actual vision is I want to be able to create, like right now, I essentially have a virtual one-stop shop. I want to be able to create a nation of you can get this anywhere you go. So I want to create a campus here where you can show up and you can do training, you can do boarding, you can get your dog groomed, you can see a vet, you can go on vacation, you can have a subscription to where you can come and utilize the facility at any time. We're in Idaho, it's freezing cold. No one really wants to take their dog out in the winter. We'll have an indoor facility that they can come, use a little scan badge, like 24-hour fitness, and have a huge off-leash area to exercise your dog, and be able to go on vacation. My concept is if you can take that and implement it in major cities, so when you go on vacation, you can take your dog with you. But if you're in a non-dog friendly area, you drop them off somewhere that you have a subscription to and be able to pick them up at the end of the day would kind of be a game changer. But to create that culture, I want to actually create a community on site to where as an employee, your housing would be paid for. You'd have a house with a yard, and everything is on the campus. We live on a lot of property, so you're not literally living with the people you work with, but you'd have your own little home, and everything would be paid for. I want to make sure that you don't pay rent, your groceries are taken care of, your everything that you would need to survive is taken care of. So the money that you're making is going towards you as a person and your family rather than worrying about quote unquote paying the bills. So again, you're helping people. And I think when people are taken care of, they're going to work harder for you, but it also creates a different culture because you're going to put more into the business, because you're not going to get as burnt out of work and life because you're so worried about life. You can just go to work, get your paycheck, and then go enjoy it with your family.
That's a pretty cool plan. It's pretty ambitious. I
Yeah.
mean, it would be like the ultimate full-time job because,
Yeah.
yeah, you'd be right there with everybody else. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think especially in those conditions, culture would be crucial because that'd be the culture of the neighborhood and the business. And yeah, that's pretty cool.
And it
Because
obviously wouldn't be a requirement to live there, but if you need it, it's there, it's available. Um, I want to be able to help. There's a company that I've been following for a really long time. They're in Europe, and the whole way they run the company is just very non-traditional. Every employee makes the exact same amount. The CEO to the janitor makes the exact same amount. All of the profit goes back into the company every year to where your bonuses, we're paying off your car, or we're paying off your mortgage this year, or you get unlimited amount of vacation, or whatever it may be. It's changing how corporate America kind of works. And if I can implement some of those things into my little neck of the woods or my little world, I think it could change how people view jobs and how they interact with their day-to-day lives.
that'd be pretty cool. That's definitely a different direction than what corporate America wants. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, just to wrap things up here, Ray, if you were to share just a few pieces of advice to someone who's looking to start their own business, let's go for like one sentence, two sentence max. Like you can take a moment here. What advice would you give them?
Find what you love, build a brand around it, and stick to it.
Tell me a little bit more about that last part. Stick to it.
Kind of what I was saying before of sometimes people get so lost in trying to build this thing really, really fast. They branch out too fast and they don't get good at what they're doing, and before they branch out, they need to have true authentic brand identity. And sometimes when they branch out too fast, it kind of gets muddled of, well, what is the purpose of you? Why do you exist? If you kind of think of like iPhone, what do people think of when they think of an iPhone? They think simple to use, easy, sleek, simple, right? Same thing with Tesla.
Right.
It's a true brand identity. There's no mistaking what their purpose is. And that's what all of the successful companies have. They have something that is recognizable and is true to them. And you need to stick to that. You need to find what you love and build a brand around it and then stick to it.
Yeah. Especially stick to it when times are rough.
Yeah.
That makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Ray, I really appreciate you taking the time today to be on the show. We want to thank all the listeners too. We couldn't do this without your support. We really appreciate it. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you for joining us on Harnessing Contrast.